Hi rock fans, hi everyone. This time for this video I'm gonna choose my top 10 favorite rock bands of the 60s, or maybe I should rather say my top 10 favorite bands in the 60s, because I'm talking about the 60s period. And this was very hard, because some of these bands released only 3 or 4 albums, but they were very good, while other bands release something like 10 albums, and among these 10 albums, there were real good albums and other albums that were just okay. So, it's almost something like the quality versus the quantity. So this is something very relative. The list, the order could change, but anyway, at the moment, I think it would go like this. At number 10, I think I would go with the Jimi Hendrix Experience. And by the way, there are other bands, like the Animals, CCR, and even the Monkees that I really like. But these bands didn't make my top 10 list. So anyway, at number 10 is the Jimi Hendrix Experience. And of course, Jimi Hendrix was the main attraction, but this was a real band, this was a trio. And they released only 3 albums. That's why I put this band at number 10. But the 3 albums were great, especially the first one. So the Jimi Hendrix Experience at number 10. And number 9, I think I would go for The Doors. Once again, The Doors, a little bit like the Jimi Hendrix Experience. They released only 4 albums in the 60s, but the first 2 albums, their debut album and Strange Days were so great, and I always love the sound of the Doors. It was something very dark, and anyway, they're number 9 on my list, the Doors. Number 8, I went for Pink Floyd. Of course, the well-known period, started with the Dark Side of the Moon, or Metal, maybe. But I always loved, the early period with Sid Barrett. And with Sid Barrett, they created the most original sound since the Beatles, in my opinion. And I always loved their debut album and the follow-up also. I think A Saucer Full of Secret was a pretty good album. They did a couple of singles like Arnold Lane's Seemingly Play, Candy in a Currant Bun, Paint Box, and they are number 8 on my list, Pink Floyd. Okay, number 7, I went for the Yardbirds, one of the most innovative rock band, a very precursor, and these are my 2 favorite albums, For Your Love and Having a Rave Up. Roger the Engineer is also pretty good, and they release a couple of memorable songs like Heart Full of Soul, For Your Love, Happenings 10 years time ago. A great, great band. So the Yardbirds at number 7. Number 6, I went for the Kings. Once again, another very original band. I always love their rock sound and their music hall influence too. And they did a couple of great albums like King Controversy, Face to Face, Something Else, Village Green, kind of Kings, another great band. So the Kings at number 6. Number 5, I went for, this is the hardest part of this top 10. Now the order could change from number 5 to number 1, but at the moment I think I would go for the Beach Boys. Great vocal harmonies, one of the best band in that category. And of course they released that masterpiece Pet Sounds, but other than Pet Sounds, they did a couple of real good albums, in my opinion. Albums like All Summer Long, Summer Days and Summer Nights, the Beach Boys Today. So the Beach Boys, a legendary band. At number 5. Number 4, I went for the Byrds. And the Byrds had several, several changes, I mean, in their lineup. But they always been a great band for me. And the 5 albums they released with their original lineup were so great to me. Mr. Tambourine Man, Turn Turn Turn, Fifth Dimension, Younger Than Yesterday, and especially Notorious Bird Brothers. What a great album. So the Byrds are number 4 on my list. Okay, let's continue at number 3. Number 3, number 2 could be switched for me, but I think I would go for The Who. Of course, The Who released Tommy in the late 60s, but they also did great albums like that one, their debut album, My Generation. The Who Sell Out is a fantastic album, and even a quick one. I always really liked the quick one, and they released a couple of real good singles too. So The Who at number 3. Number 2 for me is the Rolling Stones. Of course, they released 9 or 10 albums at least in the 60s. And of course, their well-known album from the 60s were Let It Bleed and Beggar's Banquet. But other than that, they released that great album. Always love that album, the US version of Out of Our Heads. Also love albums like Aftermath, Between the Buttons. I think the Stones were great in the 60s, and this is my second favorite rock band in the 60s. And finally, at number 1, that was a logical choice for me. I went for the Beatles, and everything they released, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, Abbey Road, or Hard Day's Night, everything they released sounded great for me, and that's my number 1 choice. So the Beatles at number 1, my favorite rock band from the 60s. So that was it. I hope that you enjoyed, and I'd like to know what is your personal ranking, your personal top 10 favorite rock bands of the 60s or in the 60s. So thanks for watching, and see you for my next video.